there were no phone calls, no talking to him ever. And I know that seems hard for you to imagine today, but we wrote each other every day. But sometimes I would get like 10 or 12 letters at one time because they wouldn't come every day. And the same was true with him.
He was gone for a total of 14 months, but he came home after the first 2 months, and then he left, and the only communication we had was mail. We had no cell phones, you know. He was not near any kind of phones or radios or anything. I never heard from him.
I guess that was the first war where we saw on the news all of the time these horrible atrocities. And when people would come back, when guys would come back, they would tell stories about how they had agreed with with the other soldiers, their friends, that they would never be captured. They would kill each other before they would let each other be captured.
No event in American history is more misunderstood than the Vietnam War. It was misreported then, and it is misremembered now. Richard Nixon, 1985. The Vietnam War has the distinction of being the first war Americans were able to see at home. It is the subject of a lot of research, and most of that research focuses on, rightfully, the soldiers. But what about the wives of those soldiers? This is the story we've captured here.
I didn't read the papers any more than I just had to, because I was not concentrating on worrying. I mean, if I had, I would have gone totally crazy.
My life changed because my husband was gone. And then he was in basic training, but was sent to Vietnam right away. He was in service for 2 years. And so within just a short period of time, he was sent to Vietnam.
Even through all of the pain and the fear that they had for their husbands and family, they still managed to show their support and pride for their fighters. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring and the troubles they would face, but they were hopeful and had faith in the leaders of their country.
I came from a very patriotic family. My dad was a Navy veteran from World War II. Very patriotic, very respectful of the country and the military.
He was raised, his father was in World War I, and he had a brother 20 years older than him that was in World War II. It was a very honorable thing to go to war. And I do think maybe that has changed somewhat today. People don't look at that as much of an honor as it was. We were raised to love our country, and you would die for your country. That's the way we were raised.
When we started with this project, some of our goals were to learn more about the Vietnam War, but to also learn more about the women we were interviewing, and we did just that. We learned about the struggles they faced and also the triumphs and the joy they had when their husbands returned. We gained a tremendous amount of respect for these women and the things they overcame. In our eyes, they are the pieces that held the puzzle together. When their husbands returned home, they were able to be themselves again, and everything was at peace because they had their other half at home.
A cute little story, when he was in the basic training, tell me if I'm talking too much, because he was at Fort Benning. How about that? And so after he'd been there 6 weeks, they let the wives come to see him. And so I dressed all up, and went to see him, and I had to go by just hundreds of soldiers. I was so intimidated. There were no other female. I had to walk this long line, and I had to go to his staff sergeant to check him out or sign him out. So I'd walk in, and I'm nervous as can be, and I said, I came to get my husband. And the guy looked at me and he said, lady, you might have come to see your husband, but you didn't come to get him. And I could have crawled under the table.